Hi everyone, I'm Karla Selp. Welcome to Ole Grown. As you can see, I'm sitting on my couch in the middle of my living room. And what do you do on your couch in their living room in the middle of the winter? You look at seed catalogs, or at least that's what I do, and pick out the different things that you are dreaming of growing the next year. So I thought I would take you on a little journey through my seed box today. I'm going to show you the types of things that I'm hoping to grow this year or have tried before, and it might spark some ideas of something that you could grow here in Olympia. One of the first things I like to share before I start going into all of the different types of things that I have in my seed box here is that there's a couple of things that I look for when I'm selecting something to grow here in Olympia. One is that I'm looking for something that can grow in a relatively short season. So you can grow a lot of different things, but if you really want success, you need to grow things that will grow well in Olympia. So that guides a lot of the decisions about which seeds I purchase. That doesn't mean that sometimes I won't purchase things that are kind of on the edge of possible for growing here, but I grow them knowing that they may or may not be successful. Just as an example, for tomatoes, I'm always looking for ones that have a shorter growing season rather than a long growing season. If there is a tomato that said, it's 110 days till it's going to be ripe from the time of transplanting or planting, I'm going to have to move on to a different type of tomato that will actually possibly ripen here in Olympia. And really, that's sort of the secret to some of my success here in Olympia. A lot of people have asked me, how do you get all those tomatoes to grow? Well, the first step is to pick a variety that has the potential to ripen in Olympia. Last year, I had stupendous success with my tomatoes, more so than ever before. Part of that is just my own learning curve, and part of it is picking those varieties. So last year I probably had at least 150 pounds of tomatoes. So if you pick the right varieties for Olympia, you can have success too. So as we're going through my box, almost all of the seeds that I have selected are ones that I believe have potential to grow well here in Olympia. Well, let's take a look and see what I have inside my box of seeds. Letting you all inside. So the first thing I want to show you is that my seeds are actually organized by month. So rather than alphabetically, which is how I had them initially, I have arranged them by the month, the time of year that I'm going to need the seeds. So let's start by looking at January, February, and see what we have in here. Just today, I started planting the tomatoes and jalapenos that I'm hoping to grow in my garden this year. So let's see what varieties I have. First, here we have a lemon spice jalapeno. This one I grew last year, but it didn't get very much sunlight. I didn't put it in a great spot. And so I don't know how lemony yellow these got, but I'm going to give it a try again this year and see what it will look like if it gets actual full sun and a chance to mature. So I'm looking forward to giving that one a try. Craig's Grande Jalapeno. This is one of my favorites. It's it grows really well here in Olympia. The jalapenos, as the name implies, are a good size, fairly large, and there's some good spice to them as well. My husband loves jalapenos, so we grow a fair amount of jalapenos in my garden, which I would think, is a bit funny because this is Olympia, and I don't think of growing jalapenos in this kind of climate, but we can actually grow some pretty good ones here. So Craig's Grande jalapeno, that's my favorite, definitely endorsed. I've been growing this one for years. Another relatively new one that I like to grow is called the Black Hungarian. And this is another type of jalapeno. It's not too spicy, but it does have a little bit of kick to it. And as you can see, the jalapeno is this beautiful, really dark, pretty much black color. The other wonderful thing about this plant is the blossoms are purple. It's really pretty. So if you're into edible gardening but also want some beauty and like to mix in the flowers, this one counts as both. It's got beautiful purple flowers and the wonderful black peppers that stand out on the plant too when they start to mature. So this is something that I just started and first year growing it. This is the African Daisy Blue Disc, and I loved daisies. I know they're super simple, but they're one of my favorite flowers. I love the little blue in the center here and the yellow around it. Again, this is my first year growing the African Blue Daisy, and we'll give it a try. I've never grown it here. We'll see how it goes starting it from seed. I should say I haven't grown it from seed. I have grown it as I picked up a transplant at the local gardening center, but I have never tried it as from seeds, so we'll see how that goes. Now we're hitting the meat and potatoes, and really the meat and tomatoes of my planting that I did today, which is the tomatoes. And I grow a lot of different tomatoes. I love tomatoes. It's one of those things that I think are, it's hard to buy a really good tomato from the store. It's something that you kind of have to grow yourself. And speaking of ones growing yourself that you cannot find anywhere, these are the types of tomatoes I like to grow. Usually you can't find these varieties, even for transplant, can be difficult, and that's one of the reasons why I love growing from seed, because I can grow tomatoes that I could never purchase transplants for anywhere. So this is one that I discovered. It's called Rosella. This is hands down my favorite cherry tomato. It is this beautiful kind of smoky rose color. The color is just gorgeous. And then the tomato is really rich and complex. It's one of my absolute favorite tomatoes. This is one of my tomatoes that I grow every year. I have different tomatoes that I will grow. I'll give anything a try once, just about, if it seems like it will potentially grow in Olympia. But because I try so many varieties of tomatoes, not many stick around every year. But this is one of them, Rosella tomato. And just as a side note, this particular variety comes from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. And I got it from another seed company last year. And to be honest, I don't know if it was the way I grew it or if the seed was just slightly different. But I didn't think it tasted quite as good as the Baker Creek Heirloom Seed tomatoes. So if you are going to try Rosella, I would lean, based on my own personal experience, toward getting it from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. Delicious, delicious cherry tomato. This one is called Red Racer, and I got this as a free sample from an online contest, I think. And this is a great little kind of standard small red tomato that's going to be ready early on in the year. As the name implies, Red Racer, it's red, and it grows relatively quickly, one of the earlier tomatoes that will be available. This one is called a cocktail tomato, so it's a little bit larger than your average cherry tomato, but it is still pretty small and is just a good kind of staple tomato. This one in the little clear plastic bag that you probably can't even see is my own variety of tomato. This one I call Saucy Mama, and here's the story behind that. I planted a variety of tomato. I think it was a sauce tomato, and rather than one of the plants, rather than coming up as a sauce tomato, your typical kind of plum looking tomato, it came out as a beefsteak type tomato, but it still had that low moisture content, low number of seeds in it. And so I saved it and I call it the Saucy Mama because it's a big tomato and because I think it would make great sauce from it. So that's my own variety, Saucy Mama. I save that one every year and regrow from my own seed. So cannot be found in stores. This one I bought last year. I just couldn't help myself, I guess, buying yet another tomato seed packet that I saw in the store. This one is called Garden Leader Monster, and I grew this for the first time last year. And it did put on some good sized tomatoes. They were your typical red tomato. If you want a nice big red slicer tomato, this one will work well for you. It came on a little bit later in the year than some of my other varieties, but still a solid tomato selection. So I'm going to grow some of that again this year. I'm going to come back to that one. Next, we have another one of my favorite grow it every year tomatoes. This one took me several years just to figure out how to say, and I still don't know if I'm doing it correctly, but it's called, or at least I pronounce it, the Wapsipinicon Peach. Once again, Wapsipinicon Peach. And it is, this little photo on this packet does not do it justice. It looks like a really ugly tomato. It's absolutely a beautiful little tomato. It's small, probably a couple inches across. It's a small yellow tomato. It has a lot of seeds in it. And the reason why they call it a peach tomato is, or the Wapsipinicon peach, is because it actually has a little bit of fuzz on it, like a peach. It's crazy. It's a fuzzy tomato, but it's one of my favorites. It's got a great flavor to it. It grows really well in the north, where we are here up in Olympia. And there's only one negative that I found to this tomato. You know, it grows well in cool climate, has a great flavor. It does not last well on the vine. So if you don't pick it when it's ripe, that full yellow color, and you leave it on there too long, when you go to pick it, you'll basically pull the outside of the tomato off and the inside guts of the tomato will stay on the vine. So that's the only small negative I find in this one, is that you do need to be on top of picking them, because if you don't, they don't last well on the vine at all. But other than that, fantastic little tomato. I've done taste tests with this at my work, where I do a little tomato testing in the early fall, late summer. And that's always one of the winners, is the Wapsipinicon Peach. Now, this is one that you can get as a transplant around. It's become pretty well known. It's called the Green Zebra, and it is a green and yellow striped tomato. Again, this one has fantastic flavor. It's a small type tomato, great for slicing, making a BLT, whatever you like to do with your tomatoes. The question that I always get about this is, how do you tell when it's ripe? And it is a bit of a subtle difference. When it's on the vine, you will see the stripes are kind of a light green and a dark green. You can tell when it's ripe because those stripes will turn to more of a yellow rather than just a light green and a dark green. You'll have more of the yellow and the green. So that is the Green Zebra tomato. Again, this one you can grow from seed, but that is one that nowadays you can find in the store with transplants that you can buy, and you don't have to grow it from seed. Now, this is another one of my absolute favorites. This is another cherry tomato, but everybody has heard of the Sun Gold tomato. I am telling you, the Sun Gold does not hold a candle, in my opinion, to the Sun Sugar. This is the Sun Sugar, all one word, Sun Sugar, and it is a little small orange cherry tomato. To me, it has a better flavor, although it's kind of close to the Sun Gold, but I think the flavor is better than the Sun Gold, and it is less likely to crack than a sun gold. So tomatoes, cherry tomatoes especially, can have a tendency to crack on the vine or shortly after you bring them in. Sun gold is more crack resistant than the sun sugar is more crack resistant than the sun gold. So I hands down prefer the sun sugar. In fact, I've never been a huge fan of the sun gold, but the sun sugar, again, tomato taste tests. This one actually went into a head-to-head with the sun gold last year and won. So sun sugar, get it. Sunny Boy Hybrid. This is a new one for me. I was looking for another yellow tomato, and this one is closer, bigger than the Wapsipinicon Peach. And it looks like a good try, so I thought I would give it a whirl. This one says it's a little bit of a firmer fruit. Again, I haven't grown this one yet, so I'm looking forward to giving that a try. My two main suppliers that I have, Baker Creek Heirloom Seed that I've already mentioned, and then Tomato Growers Supply Company. That's where I get most of my seeds, between those two companies. So Sugar Rush. This is another one that is new to me. As the name implies, Sugar Rush. It's supposed to be a sweet, early ripening tomato. I'm going to give that a try. Again, it's a smaller tomato, but supposedly it's supposed to be one of the first ones in the year. Now, one of the challenges with a really early tomato is that sometimes they just don't really have great flavor, but this one is promising otherwise. So we're going to give it a try this year. That's a Sugar Rush, and that's a hybrid tomato. Chef's Choice. Okay, everyone, last year I tried the Chef's Choice Pink, which I'll get to in a minute, but it was absolutely awesome. It produced like crazy, and it had this beautiful pink color, like a truly pink tomato. I loved it. And so now I'm trying all of the Chef's Choice versions. This one is Chef's Choice Black. So I've never really grown a black tomato, but so I'm looking forward to trying this one. Chef's Choice Black. This one is supposed to be about 8-ounce size tomatoes. So looking forward to giving the Chef's Choice Black a try. And here we have Chef's Choice Orange. Another new one. I had been trying to grow one that was an orange tomato, but I think the seed must have gotten mixed or something because it was never coming out orange. So I'm trying a different orange tomato. This one, Chef's Choice Orange. Again, this one says 9 to 12 ounce size fruit on indeterminate plants. Now, there's indeterminate, determinate, and semi-determinate. Indeterminate means that those vines are just going to kind of keep growing and putting on fruit all year long. Determinate means that it will grow to a certain point, and usually most of the fruit ripens around the same time each year. Around each year. And a semi-determinate is kind of in the middle. It doesn't go crazy like an indeterminate, but it's not as small of a plant as a determinate. So if you ever see those questions or those classifications, it can tell you something about the size of the plant and how the fruit is going to ripen on it. Now this one, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Again, another new one, Opanka. I think it's a Polish tomato, heirloom variety from Poland. And this says that it's one of the best paste tomatoes they know of, primarily because it makes the sauce so good and sweet that you wouldn't even have to add flavoring to it. So that is their claim. I'm not going to hold them up to that, but I am giving it a try this year to see. I'm still on this search for a really good paste tomato. And so we'll give Opanka a try and see if the Poles know how to grow a good tomato. Genuine hybrid tomato. Okay, everyone, if you grow one tomato and you want a beefsteak type tomato, Based on last year's experience, I would go with the Genuine. This is a hybrid tomato that's a cross with the Brandywine tomato, so it has that classic Brandywine tomato type flavor, but it's a hybrid, so it has some better vigor and disease resistance. And this thing, I tell you, it put on loads of tomatoes. I mean, endless numbers of tomatoes. I had so many beefsteak type tomatoes last year that were growing. It was crazy. I'm rarely get a beefsteak tomato to ripen in Olympia, but last year I had them coming out my ears, and the Genuine was the leader by far. So if you are looking for a beefsteak type tomato, I highly recommend the Genuine. That's Genuwine. Genuine. Get it. That's a must-have, in my opinion, tomato. Okay, now one of the nice things about when you order tomatoes or plants or seeds is oftentimes they'll send you free seed packets. So this one is the orange Oxheart. It was a free seed packet that I got, and I'm actually looking forward to giving this one a try as well. It says 10 to 12 ounces. And an Oxheart tomato, you've got your beefsteak tomato, which is kind of like your big fat slicing tomato. You have a plum tomato, which is usually kind of oval looking. You have your cherry tomatoes that are small. You've got your kind of standard tomato, the small round ones. And then you've got like an Oxheart tomato, which is shaped a bit like a heart. So I've never grown an Oxheart shaped tomato before, so I'm looking forward to giving that one a try. Chef's Choice Pink. This is the one that sold me last year on Chef's Choice. This, again, it's a gorgeous, truly pink color. And I did have a little bit of problem with cracking with it last year, but I think that is because I was gone a lot and depended upon my watering just to be automatic. And so I think they got a little bit overwatered and not picked properly. If they're properly watered and properly picked, I think that I would have less of a problem with cracking. There wasn't a lot, but there was some. But again, this was really productive. I had it on a stake, and I won't do that again. It definitely needs a cage because it was so heavily loaded it broke the stake. The stake literally broke. So I highly recommend the Chef's Choice Pink. And like we already said, I'm going to be trying a couple of the other Chef's Choice as well. Now, Virginia Sweets. This is one that I planted last year, but I don't think I don't think I ended up with one in my garden because I actually sell a lot of the tomatoes that I start from seed, and I somehow missed the Virginia Sweet. So I'm hoping to make sure to get a Virginia Sweet in my garden this year. This one is indeterminate and is supposed to be kind of bicolored red and yellow, I believe, and looking forward to trying that because I have my own Virginia Sweet. My hubby, he's from Virginia, so I want to grow a Virginia Sweet tomato for him. So this is something interesting, something new that I'm trying this year. You know, normally when you grow potatoes, you grow them from another potato. So the way that works is that you take a potato and you cut it up so that each part has at least one eye in it, and it will grow from that eye, and you'll get potatoes from the potato tuber that you planted. This time I saw literally potato seeds at Tomato Grower Supply. This one is called Clancy Hybrid, and it's supposed to be a mix of spuds ranging from red to rose interiors that are that are from red to rose with interiors that are creamy white to yellow. Tubers are 4 to 5 inches long. I've never grown potatoes literally from seed before, as opposed to a seed potato. There's a seed potato, and apparently there's also seeds. Learn something new every day. So, according to the instructions I got with this, you start them like tomatoes. So I started the potatoes with my tomatoes that I recently started, and grow from seeds. So this is going to be a really interesting experiment this year to see how this turns out. I'm kind of excited to see how it goes. So potatoes as well from seed, definitely a new one. Okay, and the last couple of things, these I didn't start this year. I decided not to grow them, but I will share them because they're in my seed box. One is we have the leek. This one's Bulgarian giant leek. And then I have a red bunching onion as well. I like both of these, but as most gardeners, I have limited space and I have to decide what I'm going to grow year to year. So I decided that I'm going to skip the onion sets this year, or the onions this year, and we'll maybe give those a try next year. So that is everything that I have for the January, February time slot. I just planted my tomatoes today, and today is February 17th. It's President's Day. That's actually a bit late for me. I normally start them more towards the end of January, beginning of February, but I just didn't get around to it this year. So still, this is plenty of time, plenty early. They will be just a tiny bit smaller going into the garden than they normally are when I put them out. But, now's a good time to get tomatoes started from seed if is what you're trying to do. Well, let's take a look at what we start growing in March.